They laughed at us. The Galactic Union's military council, an assembly of smug insectoids, reptilian tacticians, and crystalline strategists, had gathered around a holographic projection of Earth's primitive arsenal and chuckled in that condescending, multilingual way that only a united front of superior civilizations could manage. They saw missiles, guns, tanks, things that relied on combustion, magnets, and propellants, and decided humanity was still a half-step away from throwing rocks. Commander Zeltak of the Varn Dominion clicked his mandibles in amusement. These humans still use kinetic projectiles. Fire and metal. How quaint. They don't even possess void-stitching weapons or matter destabilizers, added High Strategist Pharrell of the Mindvine Collective. Frankly, I'm insulted they were invited to this war. That war, of course, had nothing to do with Earth. The Galactic Union's fleets were engaged in a long and grinding conflict with the Oblin Expanse, a rogue alliance of artificial minds, spore-flesh symbiotes, and rogue neutron species. The fighting had scarred half a dozen sectors and reduced entire planetary systems to lifeless rubble. And in desperation, the Union had turned to the unthinkable, recruiting Deathworlders. Humans. They weren't officially expected to win anything. They were meant to distract the Oblin, to throw fresh meat into the fire while the Union rearmed. Earth had promised a contingent of experimental railgun warships, and while that sounded ominous, no one in the Union took it seriously. Until one did. Vice Admiral Cass Rourke of Earth's Terran Defense Command stood aboard the TSV Banshee, a long black spear of a vessel, sharp angles etched with radiation-resistant plating and the scars of atmospheric re-entry. Inside its massive, reinforced hull sat the weapon that would redefine war, the XR-11 Hypercoil Kinetic Induction Cannon, Earth's first-generation spaceborne railgun. No plasma. No particle beams. Just hyper-accelerated tungsten rods moving at 12 kilometers per second. The aliens called it dumb tech. Humans called it a gift from Newton and revenge. Rourke didn't care what they thought. He had a target, the Oblin's Dread Fortress, a Kroth Null, a spinning moon-sized nightmare of armor and fusion rotors embedded deep in the asteroid belt of the Melketh system. It had withstood 5 Union armadas. The Union had told Rourke to fall back and wait for the main fleet. Rourke ignored them. He gave the order to fire. A single rod launched from the Banshee with no sound, no explosion, just a growing tremor through the ship's hull. In less than a second, it broke atmosphere and surged through space at Mach 35, skipping gravity like a flat stone, invisible to energy shields, because it wasn't energy. A Kroth Null never stood a chance. It didn't explode immediately. It rippled. The kinetic energy punched straight through 8 layers of neutron-compressed armor, boiled its inner reactors in microseconds, and caused a quantum cascade failure that vaporized the surrounding kilometer in every direction. Silence filled the comms. Even the Oblin fleet, cold and merciless, hesitated. Then the debris bloomed, chunks of fortress spinning in all directions, some crashing into enemy ships, others spiraling into the gas giant beyond. In one shot, humanity had done what decades of advanced tech couldn't, cracked the uncrackable. Aboard the Union's command ship, silence reigned. Zeltak's mandibles hung open. Pharrell's vines writhed in confusion. "What was that?" someone whispered. "Gravimetric anomaly," offered another. "No," said Admiral Kesh of the Vamari Ice Guard, voice hushed. "That was metal." The Oblin, caught off guard, surged forward in a desperate counterattack. But the Banshee was already reloading. Its coils hummed with energy as another rod locked into place. Boom. A destroyer, gone. Boom. A cruiser, cracked in two like a dropped egg. The rods didn't explode, they punched. And each impact carried the mass of a freight train and the speed of orbital death. What humanity lacked in elegance, they made up for in unapologetic, brutal physics. Soon the Kryn's Claw, a mind-linked Oblin ship controlled by distributed AI consciousness, turned tail and fled, broadcasting erratic screeches that translated to something disturbingly close to get it off the field now. For a species that had no concept of fear, that was historic. Within 17 minutes, the battle for Melkoth was over. The Galactic Union did not hold another formal meeting without a Terran officer present. Back on Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire. Not through official military reports, though those came eventually, but from a simple live video captured from the Banshee's external camera. The railgun firing, the streak of tungsten, the bloom of metal and fire in space. The video was titled, "Primitive Kinetics, My Ass." It went viral across 10 star systems. Requests flooded in for Terran weaponry consultations. Union engineers tried to reverse engineer the railgun but couldn't replicate the magnetic field containment with their synthetic alloys. The materials humans had used, heat-forged tungsten, human steel composites, and power-hungry capacitor banks, weren't just outdated, they were insane. No Union ship could even survive the recoil. Humans had simply braced for it. There was a word the aliens started using in whispers, one that hadn't applied to Earth before, apex. Zeltak later gave an interview to the Galactic Historical Archives. "We thought them primitive, foolish, obsessed with momentum and impact. But I realize now, they are the only species that ever looked at space and didn't try to tame it with elegance. They tried to beat it into submission. And it worked." Farrell's kind began to cultivate a new academic discipline around Terran engineering. They called it destructive simplicity. It became popular in military academies. One paper read, "Human success lies not in advanced technology, but in an almost religious dedication to making something hit very, very hard." The Banshee would go on to serve in dozens more conflicts. The railgun was upgraded. Others followed, Spectre, Gladius, Revenant, each mounted with some variation of the XR cannon. Some could fire in rapid bursts. Some launched molten rods wrapped in magnetic sheaths. One, the TSV Leviathan, fired a rod so large it altered the orbit of a small moon. That moon was later classified as asteroid rubble. The Oblin sued for peace 6 months later. The final ceasefire talks were held aboard a Terran carrier, surrounded by orbiting railgun platforms. The message was clear: laugh again, and Earth would bring the punchline. The galaxy didn't laugh at human firepower anymore. They studied it, feared it, respected it, and they never again forgot that while lasers are clever and beams are beautiful, sometimes the most terrifying weapon in the universe is just a really fast rock.